One act of kindness, one gift from the alien queen, and now he's royalty. The broken ship Marcus Chandelacroix wiped the sweat from his brow as he guided his salvage ship Wanderer's Hope through the asteroid field of the Kepler 442 system. At 26, he'd already earned a reputation as one of the best independent salvagers in the Outer Rim, though that reputation came with equal parts admiration and pity. Most salvagers worked in fleets or for corporations, but Marcus preferred the solitude of space to the politics of organized crews. His sensors chirped, detecting an anomaly buried deep within the asteroid cluster. Marcus frowned at the readings. The energy signature was unlike anything in human databases. The object was massive, roughly the size of a heavy cruiser, but its composition defied classification. More intriguingly, it was broadcasting a distress beacon on frequencies that shouldn't exist. "Well, Hope," Marcus muttered to his ship's AI. "Looks like we've found something interesting." The AI, which he'd nicknamed after his vessel, responded in its characteristically dry tone. "Interesting is an understatement, Marcus. I'm detecting life signs aboard the vessel, but they're unusual. Definitely not human." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. First contact scenarios were the stuff of legend and nightmares in equal measure. The last reported alien encounter had been the disastrous Proxima incident 15 years ago, which had nearly triggered a system-wide war. But something about this felt different. The distress call carried an almost musical quality that seemed to bypass his ears and speak directly to his soul. As he maneuvered closer, the alien vessel came into view. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The ship was breathtakingly beautiful, its hull seeming to shift between silver and gold like liquid metal frozen in time. Graceful spires spiraled from its core, and bioluminescent patterns pulsed along, its surface like a heartbeat. Even damaged as it was, one entire section was twisted and scarred. It radiated an elegance that made human engineering look brutish by comparison. "Hope, are you getting this?" Marcus whispered. "Indeed. The vessel appears to be of Zephyrian origin, based on the few xenological records we have. However, this ship is far more advanced than anything in our files. I'm detecting quantum fold, technology, bio-integrated systems, and energy sources that operate on principles we barely understand." Marcus had heard whispers of the Zephyrians, an ancient race that had supposedly achieved technological transcendence millennia ago. Most humans considered them mythical, like dragons or angels. Yet here was proof of their existence, drifting helplessly in an asteroid field. The distress beacon intensified as he approached, and suddenly Marcus heard something impossible. A voice speaking directly into his mind. The words were alien, but somehow he understood their meaning. "Please, help us. Time is running short." Without hesitation, Marcus began docking procedures. The alien ship's airlock dilated like a living iris, accepting his vessel with surprising gentleness. As he prepared for EVA, Hope's voice carried a note of concern. "Marcus, I should remind you that this could be extremely dangerous. We know virtually nothing about Zephyrian biology, psychology, or intentions." "I know," Marcus replied, checking his atmospheric suit one final time. "But they're dying, Hope. I can't just leave them." The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped into a corridor that seemed to breathe around him. The walls pulsed with soft, ethereal light, and the air hummed with harmonic frequencies that made his bones resonate. Everything was proportioned for beings taller than humans, but gracefully so. Following the mental voice that continued to guide him, Marcus made his way through the ship's organic passages until he reached what could only be the bridge. There, suspended in a crystalline pod filled with shimmering fluid, lay the most beautiful being he had ever seen. She was tall and willowy, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies, deep blue with points of silver light that shifted like living constellations. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, and even in her weakened state she radiated a presence that spoke of vast intelligence and ancient wisdom. Her eyes opened as he approached, eyes like twin nebulae, swirling with colors that had no names. When she spoke, her voice carried the music of solar winds. "Human," she whispered, her words appearing in his mind rather than his ears. You came, despite the danger. Marcus knelt beside her pod, his heart breaking at the pain he could sense radiating from her. What happened to you? How can I help? Our ship that was damaged fleeing the Void Hunters. My crew, they did not survive. I am Queen Lyrelai of the Zephyrian Star Court. I am dying. The weight of her identity hit Marcus like a physical blow. He was in the presence of alien royalty, possibly the most powerful being in known space. Yet all he could see was someone in desperate need of help. Tell me what to do, he said simply. And in that moment, with those 5 words, Marcus Chen Delacroix unknowingly set in motion events that would reshape the destiny of 2 species. The healing touch queen, Lyrelai's breathing, grew shallower with each passing moment, her celestial luminescence dimming like a dying star. Marcus watched helplessly as the crystalline pod's life support systems flickered with failing energy. The Zephyrian technology was beyond his understanding, but desperation drove him to action. The quantum resonance chamber. Lyrelai's mental voice was barely a whisper. It maintained the biosynchronization between my essence and physical form. Without it, I will fade into the cosmic void. Marcus examined the alien machinery surrounding her pod. The controls were organic, responding to touch rather than mechanical input. Bioluminescent symbols flowed across surfaces like living text, their meanings dancing just beyond his comprehension. Yet somehow, when he focused intently, patterns began to emerge, a language of light and harmony that spoke to something deep within his consciousness. I don't understand your technology, Marcus admitted, placing his palm against a warm, pulsing panel. But I'll try. No, Lyrelai's voice carried surprising strength. You must not merely try. You must feel the connection. Your species possesses something rare, an innate quantum sensitivity that most races lose as they evolve. Touch the Heartstone, Shidao gestured weakly toward a brilliant crystal formation at the center of the chamber. It throbbed with inner fire, its facets reflecting impossible geometries. Marcus approached it cautiously, extending his hand until his fingertips made contact with its surface. The moment skin met crystal, the universe exploded around him. Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical form, touching the quantum foam that underlied reality itself. He could sense the ship's pain, the wounded systems crying out for healing. More startling still, he could feel Lyrelai's life force, ancient beyond measure, beautiful beyond description, and fading fast. Instinctively, Marcus reached out with his mind, following pathways of energy that connected the Queen to her ship. He found the breaks in the quantum flow, the severed connections where the Void Hunter's weapons had torn through delicate bio-neural networks. Without fully understanding what he was doing, Marcus began to repair them, using his own life force. As a bridge between broken circuits, the ship responded immediately. Systems that had been dark for hours blazed back to life. The organic walls brightened, their bioluminescence strengthening as power flowed through previously damaged pathways. Most importantly, Lyrelai's pod began to regenerate its life-giving fluid, the crystalline matrix glowing with renewed vitality. Impossible, the Queen breathed, her stellar eyes widening in amazement. No non-Zephyrian has ever interfaced with our technology so completely. What are you, Marcus Chen Delacroix? Just a salvager, Marcus replied weakly, swaying as the effort of quantum bridging took its toll. Someone who couldn't walk away from a person in need. Lyrelai studied him with new intensity, her nebular gaze seeming to peer into his very soul. No. You are far more than you know. The Heartstone accepts only those with pure intent and quantum-sensitive nervous systems. In our entire history, fewer than a dozen beings have achieved such synchronization. As if responding to her words, the Heartstone pulsed brighter, bathing them both in warm, healing light. Marcus felt strength returning to his limbs while Lyrelai's form solidified within her pod, the dangerous translucency fading from her celestial skin. You have saved not just my life, she continued, but potentially prevented a catastrophic war. The Void Hunters seek to claim our quantum technologies. If they had succeeded in capturing me, she didn't need to finish. Marcus could sense through their newly formed connection the terrible implications, weapons that could unravel matter at the molecular level, ships that could phase between dimensions, technology that could enslave entire star systems. The ritual must be completed, Lyrelai said, her voice gaining the commanding tone of one accustomed to absolute authority. By saving my life, you have created a quantum debt that cannot remain unbalanced. The laws of harmony demand reciprocity. Don't want anything in return, Marcus protested. I helped because it was the right thing to do. Lyrelai's expression softened, and for the first time, he glimpsed something beyond her regal bearing. Genuine warmth and perhaps even affection, and that selflessness only proves you worthy of what I must give you. She reached into a hidden compartment within her pod, withdrawing an object that seemed to contain the birth of stars. It was a pendant, no larger than Marcus's palm, but within its crystalline depths swirled miniature galaxies. The artifact, hummed with barely contained power, its surface warm despite its apparent crystalline nature. The stellar crown of House Zephyros, Lyrelai intoned, her voice taking on ceremonial weight. For 50,000 years it has been worn only by rulers of our people. But the quantum threads of fate have spoken. You are to be my consort, my equal in all things, emperor of the void seas. Marcus staggered backward, overwhelmed by the implications. Your Majesty, I can't. I'm human. I don't know anything about ruling or politics or peace, Lyrelai said gently, rising from her pod with fluid grace. The crown chooses its own bearer. Look. The pendant in her hands blazed with sudden intensity, projecting holographic images that filled the chamber. Marcus saw himself as the crown perceived him, not as a simple salvager, but as a being whose quantum signature resonated with frequencies of leadership, compassion, and unshakable integrity. The visions showed possible futures, human and Zephyrian, fleets standing together against cosmic threats, technologies shared between species, a golden age of cooperation spanning star systems. The universe faces a dark tide, Lyrelai continued, stepping closer until she stood mere inches away. The Void Hunters are but the beginning. Ancient evils stir in the galactic core, and only united can our peoples hope to survive. This is not merely marriage, Marcus Chen Delacroix. This is destiny. As she placed the stellar crown around his neck, Marcus felt the weight of eternity settle upon his shoulders. The pendant fused with his DNA on a quantum level, becoming part of him in ways that transcended the merely physical. Knowledge flooded his mind, Zephyrian history, technology, the intricate web of galactic politics that would soon become his responsibility. Through it all, one truth burned brightest. His simple act of kindness had indeed changed everything. The crown's awakening. The transformation began immediately. As the stellar crown settled against Marcus's chest, its quantum matrix interfaced with his nervous system, rewriting his genetic code at the cellular level. The process should have been agonizing, but instead, it felt like coming home, as if he had been incomplete his entire life, and only now achieved wholeness. The bonding is remarkable, Lyrelai observed, her nebular eyes reflecting wonder. Most beings require months of preparation to safely interface with Zephyrian quantum technology. You're absorbing the crown's essence as if you were born to it. Marcus could feel the changes cascading through his body. His muscles grew denser without becoming bulky. His reflexes sharpened to superhuman levels, and his mind expanded to accommodate knowledge that had taken the Zephyrian civilization millennia to accumulate. Most remarkably, he could now perceive the quantum threads that connected all things, the underlying fabric of reality itself. I can see it all, he whispered in amazement. The way matter and energy dance together, how consciousness shapes probability waves, the music of the spheres. You see with the eyes of eternity now, Lyrelai confirmed, but sight alone is insufficient. You must learn to act with the wisdom of ages." Their communion was interrupted by Hope's urgent voice crackling through Marcus's comm system. "Marcus, we have a problem. Multiple ships are approaching our position. Human vessels, but they're not broadcasting standard identification codes." Through the alien ship's enhanced sensors, Marcus perceived the approaching fleet with crystalline clarity. 6 vessels, each bristling with military-grade weaponry, their hull markings identifying them as belonging to the Terran hegemony's Special Operations Division. His enhanced quantum perception allowed him to read their intentions like an open book: capture, interrogation, and, if necessary, elimination. "They've been tracking my salvage runs," Marcus realized. "The hegemony must have detected the quantum signature when I interfaced with your ship." Lyrelai's expression hardened, her regal bearing reasserting itself. "Admiral Voss commands that fleet. I know of him. A brilliant tactician, but one who views all alien contact as a threat to human supremacy. He will not hesitate to destroy us both to prevent technological contamination." "Then we run," Marcus said, moving toward the ship's control systems. "Your ship is faster than anything in the human fleet." "No." Lyrelai's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Flight would only confirm their suspicions and mark you as a traitor to your own species. There is another way, but it requires you to trust me completely." She gestured to the ship's quantum communication array, its crystalline matrices glowing, with barely contained power. "The Crown has bonded with you, making you sovereign of the Zephyrian void fleets. You now have the authority to summon the Imperial Guard." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "You're talking about calling alien warships into human space. That could start a war?" "Or prevent one," Lyrelai countered. "Admiral Voss respects only strength. Show him weakness and he will exploit it. Demonstrate power and he may be willing to negotiate." The decision weighed heavily on Marcus's shoulders. In the span of hours he had gone from a simple salvager to the potential catalyst for interstellar conflict. Yet as he touched the stellar crown, feeling its ancient wisdom flow through him, the choice became clear. "Hope, transmit my personal identification codes to the approaching fleet," Marcus commanded. "Tell them I'm conducting a sanctioned first contact operation under Article 7 of the Colonial Charter." "Marcus, you know that's not exactly—" "Do it." As Hope complied, Marcus turned to Lyrelai. "Call your ships, but make it clear they're here, for diplomatic purposes only." Lyrelai nodded, her hands dancing over the organic controls with practiced ease. The quantum communicator hummed to life, sending signals across dimensional barriers that human science barely acknowledged existed. Within moments, reality itself seemed to ripple, and 3 magnificent vessels materialized from hyperspace. The Zephyrian ships defied conventional physics, their hulls shimmering with impossible geometries that hurt to look at directly. Each was the size of a human dreadnought, but moved with the grace of living creatures, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing in harmony with cosmic rhythms. They took positions around the asteroid field with military precision, their weapon systems powering up in clear warning. "Attention, alien vessels," Admiral Voss's voice crackled across all frequencies. "You are trespassing in human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 2 civilizations' futures pressing upon him. When he spoke, his voice carried new authority, not just his own, but that of the Stellar Crown itself. "Admiral Voss, this is Marcus Chen Delacroix, newly appointed Emperor of the Void Seas and consort to Queen Lyrelai of the Zephyrian Star Court. I request permission to address your fleet regarding matters of mutual interest to both our peoples." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus could almost hear the Admiral's mind reeling, trying to process the implications of a human claiming alien nobility. When Voss finally responded, his voice was carefully controlled. "Mr. Chen Delacroix, you will accompany me to the fleet flagship for immediate debriefing. The alien vessels will maintain their current positions and make no aggressive moves." "Agreed," Marcus replied, "but I come as a representative of the Zephyrian Empire, not as a prisoner. This is a diplomatic mission, Admiral. I trust you'll treat it as such." As he prepared to leave Lyra Leigh's ship, the Queen caught his arm. "Remember," she said softly, "you are no longer just Marcus the Salvager. You are the bridge between our peoples, the hope for a future neither of us could achieve alone. The crown has chosen you, but it falls to you to prove worthy of its choice." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of destiny settling more firmly upon his shoulders. In accepting the stellar crown, he had gained unimaginable power and responsibility. Now came the true test, using that power to forge peace between two species that had every reason to fear each other. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and somehow, a simple act of kindness had placed him at the center of it all. The Emperor's Gambit, Admiral Voss's flagship, the Terran Sovereignty, was a monument to human military engineering. All sharp angles, brutal efficiency, and enough firepower to level continents. As Marcus stepped aboard through the airlock, he felt the stark contrast between this vessel and Lyra Leigh's organic ship. Where the Zephyrian craft had breathed with life, the human ship hummed with mechanical precision. The escort of Marine guards led him through corridors lined with tactical displays showing the current standoff. Marcus could see the tactical officers, analysis of the Zephyrian vessels. Their energy signatures were off the charts, their weapon systems operating on principles that human science couldn't fully comprehend. The Sovereignty and her sister ships were clearly outmatched, though Marcus doubted Admiral Voss would ever admit it. The conference room where they met was Spartan and intimidating, designed to put visitors at a psychological disadvantage. Admiral Voss sat behind a metal table flanked by his senior officers. He was exactly what Marcus had expected, graying, weathered, with the kind of steel in his eyes that came from decades of making life-and-death decisions for humanity's survival. "Sit," Voss commanded, his tone making it clear that despite Marcus's claimed titles, he was still considered a suspect. "Now explain to me how a two-bit salvager from the Outer Rim suddenly became alien royalty." Marcus remained standing, feeling the stellar crown's influence on his bearing and speech. "I responded to a distress call and provided aid to a being in need. Queen Lyra Leigh's ship had been damaged by void hunters, and without assistance, she would have died. The quantum bond formed during the rescue created a diplomatic union between our species." "Convenient," sneered Colonel Morrison, Voss's intelligence chief. "The hegemony has been tracking unusual quantum signatures in this system. For weeks, you expect us to believe this was all coincidence?" "I expect you to believe what your own sensors are telling you," Marcus replied calmly. "The Zephyrian ships out there could have destroyed your entire fleet before you knew they were present. They didn't. That should tell you something about their intentions." Admiral Voss leaned forward, his expression hard. "What it tells me is that they're smart enough to avoid unnecessary casualties while they assess our capabilities. The question is, what do they want?" Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing upon him. Everything he said now would shape the relationship between two civilizations. The stellar crown pulsed against his chest, feeding him knowledge of galactic politics, but the wisdom to use that knowledge had to come from within. They want what every advanced civilization wants, Admiral, survival. The Void Hunters aren't just a threat to the Zephyrians. They're a plague that consumes entire star systems, converting matter into dark energy to fuel their expansion. Humanity isn't ready to face them alone. "And you think we need alien help?" Colonel Morrison's voice dripped with disdain. "Humanity has survived every challenge thrown at us through our own strength and ingenuity." "Your strength is impressive," Marcus acknowledged, "but it won't be enough. The Void Hunters have consumed civilizations older and more advanced than both humans and Zephyrians. Only together do we have a chance." Admiral Voss was quiet for a long moment, studying Marcus with calculating eyes. "Assuming I believe any of this, what exactly are you proposing?" "A formal alliance," Marcus said, his voice gaining strength as he spoke. "Technology sharing, joint defense initiatives, cultural exchange. The Zephyrians have quantum manipulation, capabilities that could revolutionize human industry and defense. Humans have adaptability and innovative thinking that could enhance Zephyrian strategic planning. And what's to stop these aliens from simply taking what they want once they have access to our systems?" Morrison interjected. Marcus smiled grimly. The same thing that stopped them from taking it already, honor. The Zephyrians have had the capability to conquer human space for millennia. They didn't because conquest is antithetical to their nature. They're gardeners, Admiral, not conquerors. They nurture and protect rather than destroy and dominate. Pretty words, Voss said. But I deal in facts, not philosophical arguments. Can you guarantee human autonomy under this proposed alliance? I can guarantee that without it, human autonomy becomes irrelevant when the Void Hunters arrive. But yes, the alliance I'm proposing would preserve human sovereignty while creating mutual defense and trade agreements. A communication alert interrupted the discussion. Commander Phillips, the flagship's tactical officer, appeared on the wall display. Admiral, we're detecting massive quantum fluctuations throughout this system. Something big is coming through hyperspace. The lights in the conference room flickered as reality itself seemed to vibrate. Through the viewport, Marcus could see stars shifting position as space-time distorted around them. The Zephyrian ships immediately moved into defensive formations, their bioluminescent hulls blazing with warning patterns. Void Hunters, Marcus said, his blood running cold. They tracked the quantum resonance from Lyrale's ship. As if summoned by his words, the attackers emerged from the dimensional rift. They weren't ships in any recognizable sense. They were geometric nightmares of dark metal and impossible angles, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. There were dozens of them, each one radiating an aura of entropy that made reality itself recoil. All ships, battle stations, Admiral Voss barked, his earlier skepticism forgotten in the face of genuine threat. Prepare to engage hostile forces. Admiral, wait, Marcus called out. Your ships can't fight them effectively with conventional weapons. You need to coordinate with the Zephyrian fleet. I don't take tactical advice from salvagers, Voss snapped. But even as he spoke, his tactical displays were showing the devastating effectiveness of the Void Hunters' entropic weapons. The first human ship to engage, the destroyer Vanguard, simply ceased to exist as dark energy unraveled its molecular bonds. Admiral, Marcus said urgently, I can coordinate the defense through the quantum link with Queen Lyrale. Trust me, or watch your entire fleet die. Voss stared at him for a heartbeat that lasted eternity. Then, with the decisiveness that had made him famous, he nodded. Do it. Marcus closed his eyes and reached out through the stellar crown's connection to Lyrale. Across the void, he felt her mind touch his, and suddenly he was seeing the battle from multiple perspectives simultaneously. Human tactical systems, Zephyrian quantum sensors, and the cold malevolence of the Void Hunters' collective consciousness. Zephyrian vessels will create quantum barriers to deflect entropic weapons, he called out, his voice carrying new authority. Human ships will provide kinetic support and protect the Zephyrian flanks. Formation Delta 7, engage on my mark. For the first time in galactic history, human and Zephyrian forces fought as one, their combined capabilities proving greater than the sum of their parts. The battle would be remembered as the moment two species chose cooperation over fear, with a former salvager serving as the bridge between worlds. The New Dawn. The battle raged for 3 hours, but it felt like an eternity to Marcus as he coordinated the joint fleet through his quantum link with Lyrale. The Void Hunters' entropic weapons tore reality itself, while their geometric ships phased between dimensions to avoid retaliation. Traditional human tactics proved useless against enemies that could simply unmake matter at the molecular level. But the combined fleet fought with unprecedented unity. Zephyrian vessels generated quantum barriers that deflected the worst of the entropy beams, while human ships provided devastating kinetic bombardments that exploited the brief moments when Void Hunter ships solidified to attack. Marcus found himself naturally orchestrating the dance of war, his enhanced consciousness processing tactical data from dozens of sources simultaneously. Sovereignty. Target the lead construct's quantum. Anchor point, Marcus commanded, his voice carrying across both human and Zephyrian communication channels. Zephyrian cruiser Stellar Wind, reinforce Sector 7. The enemy is attempting a flanking maneuver. Admiral Voss watched in amazement as his tactical displays showed impossible coordination between species that had never fought together before. How are you doing this? He asked Marcus during a brief lull in the fighting. The stellar crown creates a quantum consciousness link, Marcus explained without taking his attention from the battle. I can perceive the flow of space-time itself, see the patterns before they fully form. But more than that, I can feel the courage of every pilot, human and Zephyrian alike. They're not following my orders, they're following our shared will to survive. The turning point came when the largest Void Hunter construct, a reality-devouring monstrosity the size of a small moon, began charging what Marcus could only describe as an existence deletion beam. The weapon would erase everything within a light-hour radius from the quantum foam up, making it as if they had never existed at all. All ships, emergency evacuation, Admiral Voss ordered, but Marcus could see through his enhanced perception that there wasn't enough time. The weapon would fire before any ship could reach minimum safe distance. Without hesitation, Marcus made a choice that would echo through galactic history. Drawing upon the full power of the stellar crown, he projected his consciousness directly into the quantum substrate of reality itself. The strain was enormous. He could feel his mortal form beginning to burn away under the cosmic forces he was channeling. But through sheer force of will, he began to weave new patterns in the fabric of space-time. Marcus, no! Lyralee's mental voice screamed across their link. The quantum backlash will kill you. Better one death than millions, he replied, his physical form already becoming translucent as his consciousness dispersed across multiple dimensions. Take care of both our peoples, Lyralee. Show them what we could achieve together. In that moment of ultimate sacrifice, something extraordinary happened. The combined will of every human and Zephyrian warrior in the fleet reached out to Marcus through the quantum foam, lending him their strength. Admiral Voss, despite his earlier skepticism, focused his iron determination on supporting the young man who had bridged two worlds. Queen Lyralee poured her millennia of wisdom and power through their bond. Even the ship AIs contributed their computational capacity to the effort. The result was beyond anything the universe had seen before, a quantum miracle born of sacrifice and unity. Instead of being destroyed by the cosmic forces he was channeling, Marcus found himself transformed. His consciousness expanded beyond physical form, while somehow remaining anchored to his humanity. He became something new, not fully human, not fully Zephyrian, but a bridge between states of existence itself. With his newfound power, Marcus reached out and simply turned off the Void Hunter construct. The reality deletion weapon collapsed, inward, taking the massive ship with it. The remaining Void Hunters, faced with forces they couldn't comprehend, retreated into their dimensional rifts. The silence that followed was profound. In the aftermath of battle, human and Zephyrian ships drifted together, their crews staring in wonder at the figure of light that had been Marcus Chandelacroix. I'm still here. His voice resonated directly in their minds, warm with familiar humor despite his transformed state. Just different. The crown didn't just make me a ruler, it made me a living symbol of what our species can accomplish together. In the months that followed, the Marcus Accords became the foundation for a new galactic civilization. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian wisdom created technologies and art forms that neither species could have achieved alone. Trade routes opened between star systems, cultural exchanges flourished, and joint colonies began spreading across the galaxy. Admiral Voss, now serving as humanity's ambassador to the Zephyrian Empire, often reflected on that day. Who would have thought, he mused to his aide, that the fate of the galaxy would turn on one man's decision to help a stranger? Marcus himself, existing now as both emperor and quantum entity, spent his time traveling between worlds, ensuring that the cooperation born from crisis would endure. He had learned that true royalty wasn't about crowns or titles. It was about service to others even at the cost of one's own life. And in the depths of space, where quantum currents carried stories across the cosmos, whispers spread of the human who had become something more through a simple act of kindness. His legend grew not because of the power he wielded, but because of the heart that had chosen to wield it in service of others. The galaxy had found its bridge between species, and that bridge was built not on conquest or dominance, but on the radical idea that sometimes helping a stranger in need could change everything. In the end, Marcus Chen Delacroix had discovered the most human truth of all, that our greatest strength lies not in what we can take but in what we choose to give.